Going through deliverance and going to therapy, I feel, are two totally different things. Now, I'm not going to make this episode like super heavy per se, but sometimes I have these different conversations with Christians that find themselves saying, well, I've already gone through deliverance, I'm okay. And they don't think that they need therapy. And so today I'm going to really unpack how I see therapy and then how I see deliverance because I've done it all. Welcome back to another episode of the You, Me, and Jesus podcast. We are here every single Sunday where I share all about my experiences with God and I take, like questions and conversations that are happening on the internet and that are happening with me, with my friends, or just people that I meet, out and about. And so I thought about this topic because, I've talked to so many different people over the years and recently who I don't think that they may value deliverance or value therapy or both. And I just wanted to have just a little bit of conversation about it. Now, I will give you a disclaimer. I am not a licensed therapist by any means, and I am not giving you therapy advice. I'm giving you experience from someone that has been in therapy for many, many, many years and has gone through a lot of deliverances, okay? I think I've probably done more deliverance than I have therapy. Just, I can be honest, maybe. I don't know. But anyway, so the reason why I feel like this is a topic that we should be talking about is because we all want to be healthy, right? We want to be healthy in so many aspects of our lives. And one of the areas where we need to be healthy is our mental health, right? And I mean, listen, we need to be healthy in all aspects, but today we're just talking about mental. And so when we think about mental health, there's so many things that go along with mental health, right? And if I just think about just stuff that I have gone through over the year, I mean, it has been a lot of things that have happened with me, to me, over the last 42 years that I have had to choose to process or not, and by not processing them, by not actually unpacking them, it over time hurt me more than it helped me, even though I did not know it, right? So I'll give you an example. When I think about deliverance, right? Well, you know what? We haven't done this in a while. Usually we go to Google and I type in a word and we see what Google has to say. And so we are going to type in deliverance. Okay. All right. Just type in the word deliverance and see what Google says. So there's like movies and all that. Okay, so a Merriam-Webster dictionary says the meaning of deliverance is an act of delivering someone or something, the state of being delivered, especially liberation or rescued. Okay, so we are gonna actually type in deliverance ministry. Okay, but that was a good one. Okay, deliverance ministry. What is the biblical definition of deliverance? As we remember the Lord and his deliverance, he remembers us. Scriptures. He offers us covenants that bind us to him and bless us with even greater help and strength through his spirit. He truly is our deliverer. Okay, same thing. So it doesn't necessarily give us like a definition of deliverance. Okay, but I think that what we saw on Google was very, very, good. It's like liberation or being rescued. So when I look at deliverance, it's like we are dealing with stuff and we become oppressed or whatever, even though we may not even think we are oppressed or just be cognizant of what oppression looks like to us in some aspects of our lives. There is oppression that happens, right? So I look at, how I grew up, right? I grew up in a household where my father was not there, where my mom was on drugs. My mom was in and out of all of this stuff my whole life. I'm the youngest of four girls, and there were times when we dealt with so much, just so much stuff. But, to the child, it like the chaos is like normal or whatever, right? And then when I got into, I think it was high school, and I started to be around my new friends and being around their lives, when I compared their life to my life, I was like, something's off, right? Like one example is needing to hurry up and become of age so I can work, so I can have deodorant. That was my story, right? Whereas my friends never had to figure out getting deodorant because their parents took care of that, right? So that was like poverty and like what was happening in our household or whatever. And it's just a lot of things. Let's just say poverty in standpoint, right? To where we grew up eating whatever we could, whatever was available, whenever it was available. Not the best things for us or even being educated on food, but whatever was available, when it was available, that was. Whereas my friends grew up learning about really understanding, what is good for you, what's not good for you, and all these different things or whatever, right? So what happened was I came up under this agreement that this is what was normal, right? That poverty was normal, even though I wouldn't say that these certain things was normal, right? Eating like this was normal and that was abnormal, right? And so when I started going on this journey of discovery and being healthy, one of the things that happened was I had this like awakening. I was like building something on the floor and God just showed up and just said that I was dealing with, was it food oppression, spirit of something about with food? I can't remember exactly what he said. And I was just like, I didn't understand. But when I sat there and I was just like, I could see it. I could see that like we grew up not having food. And so I had this thing when it came to food. If it was food, they had to get more than enough. I mean, it was just crazy. And I was just like, okay, I don't know what to do. And he was just like, well, I want you to go to therapy, but I want you to go and see your regular Christian counselor, your deliverance counselor, so she can actually walk with you with me, right? And when I went into sessions with her, we would, like I would have my eyes closed and I would share when she would ask me certain questions, I would tell her what I could see. And in those moments, what I could see was not having food and just like the fear and just all this stuff or whatever. Whereas when you look at God is not like that. He doesn't keep things from us. You know what I mean? He wants us to have more than enough. We're supposed to have more than enough, but that's not necessarily what it was like in my environment, And so I was always had this agreement that I was never gonna have enough. And I always had to fend for myself. I always had to work hard and just all these different ways of being that I thought that I had always had to be in my life. And so I had come under this spirit of oppression with regards to money and food and having enough. And so I went through a level of deliverance, right? But here was the after effect. So it was like after I did that, now it was like here was this awareness, but then it was like, now what? And I had no idea. I didn't know the effects that all of that had on me and how what has impacted me the last 40 years, right? And so I was like, well, what do I do now? And God was like, you need to go to therapy so that your therapist is actually able to now walk you through this journey and give you tools, right? Tools for when you have these moments of like panic or whatever these feelings you're feeling about food or whatever, that you can you have the tool in your toolbox to be able to say back to yourself the thing you need to say back to yourself, whatever, right? For example, there was this thing that I had where if I went to a place and they were going to have food, something in me unconsciously, when I grabbed my plate, I would just get so much stuff, and I was never going to eat all of it, right? And so I would eat what I would eat and I would be full, but I would still see food over there and I would go back and get more. Even though I was full, even though I had money and didn't need to be able to eat that way. It's just what would happen, And so the deliverance first, and then it was, well, now what? And so then when I started going to therapy, she started saying, okay, the next time you go to a party and you see the food, I want you to talk to yourself. Tell yourself, remember how much money you have in your account. Remember how much food you have in your refrigerator. Remember that you have control over the amount of food that you can have. Like, your mom is not responsible anymore. Your dad is not responsible anymore. You have more than enough money to be able to go and buy food to eat. And like these tools I started to have in my tool belt and in my mind, so that when I went into these environments, I could say to myself, not out loud, but just mentally, listen, if I don't get the last piece of salmon, I can go and buy me some salmon. Like, I could just, but this was literally a huge issue for me. And people would never, ever guess it was an issue. Huge issue. And Deliverance started it, but therapy is what has given me the tools to where, like, I was somewhere recently. I can't remember where I was, somewhere recently. And well, I know my church had like tacos or something, taco bar, all the things. And I was there and I saw all the food and I was just like, okay, there was a moment where I could get more than enough. And I was just like, what do I really want? And I was like, I want rice, Mexican rice. I love Mexican rice. And I was like, I want a little bit of this quesadilla, not a whole lot, but just a cheese. I wanted a little bit, so I got it. And then I wanted chicken, right? And I wanted to put the little sauce on it, okay? And so I got the rice and I got the chicken. And then I said I had this moment where I was like, I could get more. And I was just like, no, I'm okay. I think that's enough. And I walked away and then, I ate my food. But I was aware, right? I was aware of the experience that I was having looking at the food as it was sitting there, right? It reminds me of someone who deals with bulimia and anorexia, right? And they're like looking at all this food and they're just like, and they have to slowly say, hey, I need to eat this. I'm going to eat this piece, and like just this process. But therapy, it was begin to retrain your brain, right? So, for example, after I went through divorce, right, there was so much stuff that happened there. So much stuff that happened there. So when I went to counseling and just talking to God, he was just like, there's some aspects of your life where you actually need deliverance, not just from, breaking the soul ties that you have with your husband, but you also have got to go through your whole family line, because there's a history of divorce there. There's all this stuff that your family's never dealt with. I know it sounds deep. We're not going to get into it. And I was just like, okay, like what's the lies that it was a lot of stuff. And we went through a series, like so many different deliverance sessions, and I could feel like the oppression. I mean, it was wild, right? But even after all of that happened, I remember it reminded me of being thrown into a ditch without a shovel, without a ladder, right? And then going through deliverance was like me climbing out of the ditch, like with my bare hands, right? And then going, now I'm standing on top of the dirt and I am just like exhausted and I don't know what to do next. I told somebody that years ago. I was like, I feel like I just climbed out of a ditch and I don't know what to do next. And therapy was next. Therapy is what I was able to say, here's what I've done. Here's the revelations that I've gotten. Here's where I am. I don't know what my next move is. I don't know how to heal. I don't know how to, you see what I mean? And therapy just really was able to like just walk me through this like journey of like wholeness and tools and all these things, right? Like I was somewhere recently and I was telling them really hard things that are going on in my life. And the guy was just like, wow, you said that with a smile on your face. And I said, well, the only reason why I can do that is because I journal every day. I pray, I cry every day. And I talk to God, and I'm like, this is the only way in therapy. It's like the only way, because I'm like I'm walking this journey, And therapy is what did it. God and Jesus' deliverance was the first part, but then there was more that was needed. And I don't know exactly what you are dealing with, But I know you are dealing with some stuff. I know that a lot has happened to you in your life, things you want people to know and things you don't want people to know. And the truth is that you probably do need some level of deliverance, but you really need a lot of therapy, right? You really need someone who is trained and have these tools to be able to help you and walk you through. You know what I mean? Like, I can't tell you all my stuff because it's just a lot of things that I've gone through and like been in therapy for. But the only reason I don't go crazy with all the stuff that has happened and is happening in my life is because I go to therapy. Y'all, you have no idea. Like just today, just so much has happened today before I filmed this. And the only reason I am still able to be right here in front of this camera, in front of this microphone, is because I have tools in my tool belt. The only reason, right? And one of the tools that I have in my tool belt is every night when I'm getting ready to go to bed, I'm laying down, mask is on, mouth tape is on, and then I just go and I'm in the dark and I'm just like looking up, just like, today I am thankful for, and I just start naming all the things that I am thankful for. And I just name all the things that I'm thankful for that happened that day. And most times I just fall right to sleep. But I fall to sleep in thanks. And I never used to do that. Never. But I am seeing the beautiful benefits of doing that. It is changing my entire life. It is changing my sleep. It is changing my dreams. It's changing me when I wake up in the morning because I am doing these little practices that I have learned in therapy, right? And that's like, y'all know I'm on this journey of like wanting to get remarried and all this stuff. And I'm like, there's going to come a time when I'm going to meet somebody and he is not going to be perfect. And he's going to trigger me in whatever areas, or I'm going to be upset with him because that's what happens when you with human beings. And the tools that I'm learning in therapy are going to help me to be able to communicate with him. Like I had a call today with a company we're trying to do business with, and I actually have requested a demo. I wanted the basics of a demo. And for whatever reason, they didn't give a demo. They get me on this call with this guy. He's half an hour, like 15 minutes late. And I'm like, I'm out of here. And so then he's, it was frustrating because he was late. It was a whole thing. I get on this call with him and he is like all over the place. I mean, he's all over the place and he's talking to me like I have used his services forever. And I'm having to educate him on, sir, we don't know anything about your company or your product. I don't know anything about it. The whole purpose of this call is because we don't know what's going on. And he's having this whole conversation in his head. And I finally said, sir, you're having a conversation in your head. You have expectations on what you think we know and what we should know. We don't know anything about your company and what it does. We need you to explain things to us. But there, back in the day, I would have just hung up on Zoom. Please. I would have just hit leave meeting and been gone, right? But guess what? Therapy is what helped me to be able to articulate myself. Even though I was frustrated, I could articulate myself. And like multiple times in the call, he kept saying, I'm sorry I'm wasting your time. Sorry I'm wasting your time. And I was finally able to say, sir, you are not wasting my time. Your company has wasted my time. All I needed was a video. Your website was not giving me the video. And it put me on a call with you when it could have just given me the video. And so because of that, we're here in this moment and you're trying to book multiple calls with me, the third call with me. I don't have time for these calls. I just want the demo. And he was like, oh, you're exactly right. But listen, without therapy, there is no way I could have articulated that to him. Listen, I'm telling y'all, some of y'all don't know me like that, but I used to be a real mean lady and I still have it in me. You know what I mean? But therapy helps me pause and helps me get my thoughts together to be able to articulate them out to people. It's helped me grow and it's helping me mature. And so if you're somebody and you've lived life, I guarantee you need therapy. I was with somebody a couple weeks ago and they were like, I don't need therapy. And for me, when I was listening to them say that, I said to myself, this person is not a safe person. I know that sounds really mean, But I said, I'm talking to them, and this person wants me to be in their space and them be in my space. And, not like as a peer friend or whatever, but like an older person. And I said to myself, no, this is not a safe person for me. Because if this person does not think that they have anything wrong, that they don't need to go to therapy, that is not safe for me. Because I value continuously growing, and they're saying they're good. And I'm like, no, so I can love them. But I was like, that is not a safe person for me, which is why I don't date men that don't go to therapy, because we are living this human life, human experience. And if I am constantly trying to grow and mature, become a better person, a better version of myself, and you don't want to do that, and we're in the same household, it's going to be a nightmare on Elm Street. And I'm like, I'm just not doing that, because I recognize all of my shortcomings. My God, and more will come out, right? But like, if a person doesn't value it, it's like, I can't do that with you. Like, you can't mentor me if you don't go to therapy. You can't be like a spiritual father, mother if you don't go to therapy. You can definitely be my friend. You cannot be my man. Why? Because we're doing this together. You know what I mean? Like, my life affects your life. You're giving me guidance in my life and all that type of stuff, and you don't value therapy. That doesn't mean you go every week. But if you don't value it for no. Because like, you're saying you're not growing. It's like, listen, don't get me wrong. I 100% go to God about all things, everything. No matter what my therapist says, I bring everything back from the therapist to Jesus. I went to the doctor today. I bring everything back from the doctor to Jesus, right? So it's like, I go and do the things and bring it back to him. You see what I mean? So I know I'm really passionate about this. Like, I am extremely passionate about this, because I want to grow and mature. I want you to grow and to mature, and I want you to live the best life possible. And one of the ways you're going to have that best life is deliverance, but also it is therapy. Therapy is it's hard. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's a lot easier than deliverance in a sense, but it is hard because you have to face the truth, right? The good, the not so good, who you are, where you're not, and all that. But it will change your life forever. Okay. So very passionate about this subject. If you enjoyed this, I want to hear from you. Comment here on YouTube or on the podcast, in the show notes or on social media, and tell me what you think. Ask me any questions. I would love to help you.